Boom, 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 boom. Now tell me what you gonna do when it ain't nowhere to run. When judgment comes for you. When judgment comes for you. Tell me what you gonna do when it ain't nowhere to hide. When judgment comes for you. 'Cause it's gonna come for you.
Making it for water, easy, see some for Charlie. Little boo for God's got him. And I'm gonna miss everybody out of roll and flow like I looked at a wild flag. And play for dust and they play too deep for beach side. Little legs I came to be. Tell me your feature deceased, would it please? Marry me by my grand new way. You can't go follow
God bless you, working on a plan to heaven.
Back on Wrestling Network. Welcome back to the CrosUp, your weekly look back at the week that was in professional wrestling. This week I'll be running through the results and happenings from Raw on June the 29th to Collision. Actually, that's incorrect. I have my notes incorrect. It would be July 3rd, SmackDown, because Collision was on Thursday this week. So I forgot to make that correction before I started. But we'll also be covering the Great American Bash, Forbidden Door, and Slammiversary from the previous weekend. We'll be starting with Slammiversary because that was the show that happened first, because I think it started at like 3 in the afternoon. They didn't want to combat with the two other shows that were happening at night, so they decided to start in the afternoon. But we open with Cedric Alexander. He successfully defends his X Division title in Ultimate X. When Amazing Red and Leon Slater were both fighting over the belt, they had unstrapped from the cables. And while kind of hanging and dangling there, Cedric swoops in, grabs the title, because you have to actually physically touch the mat with the belt. So he kind of swoops in, grabs it, and touches the mat first, so he retains his championship. The other guys in the match were Mr. Elegance, Fabian Eichner, Casey Navarro, and Frankie Kazarian. After the match, Frankie Kazarian shows some respect to Amazing Red and praises him for the influence that he has had over the TNA locker room and the wrestling business at large, saying his style is used quite frequently by current day stars and all that, and he was a huge influence for most of them. And then Kazarian throws to a video package, and Amazing Red will be going into the TNA Hall of Fame this year at Bound for Glory. We then have the match for the rights, the name, image, and likeness of Elijah. Elijah wins it from AJ Francis when he hits a springboard Canadian Destroyer. After the match, Elijah is able to get his guitar back that AJ had taken from him, and he opens it and strums on it a little bit. We then have Mike Santana. He says he's ready for the main event tonight against Nick Nemeth, and he says he wants the best out of Nick Nemeth, and he'll bring the best out of himself. So we'll see how that goes for him later on tonight. We then have Demon Bunny, which is the new team name for Rosemary and Allie. They defeat the Elegance brand when Allie hits a code breaker, and then Rosemary follows it with a reverse DDT, and they become the new Knockouts Tag Team Champions. We then have Dario Ray and Santino Marella argue over who is making who's going to be challenging Mustafa Ali for the international title, and they end up actually making it a triple threat because they both have somebody that's going to face Mustafa Ali. So Mustafa Ali then defends it, and he defends it successfully. He defeats Rich Swann in the debuting Uhaa Nation, which was obviously Apollo Crews. That's what he went by before he came to NXT and WWE. So Uhaa Nation, officially part of the TNA roster, it seems. But Mustafa Ali does retain. He's able to catch Rich Swann with a bridging backslide, and he retains his international title. We then have Moose defeat Eddie Edwards in a no surrender match, which was basically they both had a corner man, and whoever threw in the towel, obviously, whoever threw in the towel first, they surrendered for their combatant or whatever. So Alicia Edwards eventually throws in the towel. I'm pretty sure she was like about to get speared by Moose, so that's really why she threw the towel in the first place. So she wasn't really doing it on Eddie's behalf, but he had been beaten down pretty good. He had been speared multiple times. Moose had even wrapped a chain like around his shoulder and done a spear like that as well. But then after the match, JDC was Moose's corner man. He comes in and gives Eddie a stunner, and then Moose actually spears both Alicia and Eddie through a table in the corner. So Alicia avoided the spear to kind of throw in the towel, but she does end up eating one in the long run. We then have Xia Brookside. She defeats Lei Ying Li via pinfall with the Dark Side DDT, and she is our new Knockouts champion. So Xia Brookside, fresh off a heel turn, gets her championship here. We then get announced two shows that are coming down the pike. We will have Lockdown coming to Chicago in August, And we have Destination X as coming in November. I don't think they announced where that was quite yet, but we do have two oldie but goodie pay-per-views. We then have the tag team titles defended. The Hardys regain the tag team titles. They defeat the Great Hands, the Righteous, and the System, who were the champs coming in a ladder match. And like I said, the Hardys are your new TNA tag team champions. And then have Mike Santana come out and give some rather he does it in backstage, I believe. He gives a heartfelt message about all of the help that Conan was able to give him over the years in kind of his upbringing in the business. And he believed in Conan's always believed in him. And then he says he will be thrilled to announce that Conan will also be going into the TNA Hall of Fame this October at Bound for Glory. So two big announcements for some Hall of Famers there. Me personally, I'm probably a little bit more excited about Amazing Red going in than Conan, but to each their own. And then we have our main event where Nick Nemeth is able to defeat Mike Santana via pinfall following a danger zone after Santana had been busted open early in the match, and he was kind of woozy at the end and was losing blood. And he goes for the spindle block and just kind of collapses, and that allows Nick to hit the danger zone and become the new TNA World Champion. So obviously this kind of leads people to think that his Santana's contract is probably up or getting close to coming up. So he is not. I think I heard that he's not at the current tapings that they were doing that obviously aired this past Thursday that I'll talk about later. But I would say he's pretty much WWE bound fairly soon. Now, whether he has to wait out, a period of time or whatever, I'm assuming if his contract just elapses, then he can kind of go wherever he wants to. But there may be some kind of no compete in there that he has to contend with. But I would say he's probably NXT bound here pretty soon. So, but he was a good champion for what it was worth. It's kind of shitty for TNA at this point because obviously they seem to be somewhat of a feeder system for WWE ever since they kind of started this partnership. But, like Joe Hendry wins the title and he's like immediately like, oh, when is he leaving? When is he leaving? When is he leaving? And same thing kind of here with Santana. He's won it. And obviously it feels like ever since he won it, it's just like, when is he going to lose it and leave? So, and you could even say the same thing about whoever's next. I mean, it seems like Leon Slater might be a future world champion. But it seems like by the time they actually end up giving it to him, it'll be like, oh, well, his contract elapses in 4 months. So we'll give him the belt for 4 months and then he'll lose it to the one guy that's staying around. So it's just kind of strange, kind of weird, but we'll see. We'll see who Nemeth kind of feuds with going forward. Obviously, as I'll talk about on Impact later, it seems like it's going to be somebody for the short term, but I doubt that'll be a long-term program. But as far as best match for Slammiversary, I would go with Ali, Uhaa Nation, and Rich Swann. I thought they just had some good action. I thought, Apollo Crews / Uhaa Nation looked really, really good in his debut. Ali's always one of the best that TNA has to offer, and Rich Swann's a good veteran to have in there in that kind of situation. So, but we'll go from there to the Great American Bash. We actually opened with our NXT Championship match. Tony D'Angelo with his head all bandaged up from the burn from the previous NXT. He retains over Naraku via pinfall. He hits him with the dead to rights to get the pinfall victory. We then have Zarya retain her North American Championship, Women's North American Championship by defeating Tatum Paxley. She wins the match with a F5, obviously. We then have Kendall Gray and Ren Sinclair in the backstage. They kind of hype each other up. Obviously, Kendall's going for the NXT Women's Championship, and Ren Sinclair is defending her speed title later on tonight. So we'll see how that ends up going for both of them. We then have the Vanity Project. They go to Robert Stone, and they get matches for this week on NXT. Jackson Drake will be facing Mason Rook, and the tag team titles will be defended when AAA representatives Galeno and El Hijo del Dr. Wagner Jr. Come in, and they will face for the tag team titles. And the Vanity Project do not seem happy with the idea of having these two matches. We then go to a watch party that's outside. Kevin Owens is attending. Obviously, it's kind of like a panel kind of situation, but he's interested in seeing what we'll be seeing tonight in the next two matches in particular. And one of those two matches is Shiloh Hill defeating Tristan Angels via pinfall, following a Whisper of the Beast. After the match, Shiloh Hill grabs his Mr. NXT sash back and says this was proof why no one should sleep on him. We then go to Nikita Lyons. She praises Natty for her latest Guinness World Record, which I didn't pay attention to what it was because I really just don't care about Natty, and her being here kind of annoys me in the first place. But Natty brags about the sharpshooter and praises Carmen Petrovich and Layla Diggs. Natty says she doesn't like Jada Parker, but Diggs also says she doesn't think much of Parker either. So Natty seems to have a group of young ladies in her, she's being a mentor too. So Nikita, Layla, and Carmen seem to be kind of her flunkies for the time being. And Nikita's actually the new Evolve Women's Champion as of the last couple of weeks. So we'll see what she can do with that. We then go to EK Prosper. He is in Robert Stone's office and complains about Keanu Carver putting him through a table. Robert Stone calms him down and says he will be getting a AAA Latin American title shot this Tuesday against El Hijo del Vikingo. And EK Prosper seems pretty pumped about this idea of going up against Vikingo. So we'll see how that goes. We then have Rin Sinclair. She retains her speed championship over Ariana Grace via submission with the final wrench. We then have Saquon Sugars. He defeats his old Dark State buddy of Deion Lennox. He wins via pinfall with what I can only describe as like a reverse frog splash. So he was facing towards the ring post, kind of jumped off and did like the frog splash motion backwards. It was pretty sloppily done. And this match was pretty sloppy in the whole long run. So doesn't give you too much excitement for either of these guys going forward, because it seemed like it kind of started off the rails, kind of kept off the rails, and like I said, the finish was kind of sloppy. So we'll see if these guys can recover from this. But Dark State, obviously Cutler James, and Osiris Griffin, who had actually been taken out over the last few weeks to make this a little bit more fair, but they come out at the end seemingly recovered, and they all take out Saquon to leave him laying. We then go to Tatum Paxley. She has her like red contacts in, so she looks extra like demon-like, I would say. She's upset with her loss, feels like she let everyone down. Kalani Jordan comes in to say no one cares about her because she's and she always says no one cares about Kalani is what I mean. And she's always being overlooked for people like Tatum, and she's tired of it. And then Tatum reacts because she doesn't like her talking about her, and she forearms her in the face. We then have Miles Bourne retain his North American Championship over Tavion Heights via pinfall with a sloppy Bourne again to kind of end the match. After the match, Bourne talks about how Heights is going to be a champion one day, but it's not happening right now because he's holding this title for as long as he damn well pleases. And we then go back to the watch party panel. They kind of recap what's happened so far, with Kevin Owens making it clear that he never turned on anyone in his entire life. Hank and Tank then come up to talk about next week's show, including mentioning Keanu Carver losing last week. And this brings Keanu out, and he beats up on Hank and Tank and puts Tank through a table. So pretty impactful spot there for Keanu. We then have our main event where Kendall Gray defeats Lola Vice via pinfall following a Shades of Grey, and Kendall Gray is your new NXT Women's Champion. So that was, for me, the best match of the night. I thought it was really, really strong. Both women's match really, I thought were great. I thought they both pulled through and delivered some really good stuff. I thought Bourne and Heights was also very good, but Kendall and Lola had a really good banger main event. And Zarya and Tatum had a pretty good match as well, but I would definitely go with the main event for the best match of the night. So all of them involved. But we get to start out, our first match was the Young Bucks defeating Sky Team, which is Mystico and Mascara Dorado, and Unbound Co. Of Takagi and Teton when the Bucks hit the Meltzer driver on Teton to get the win. We then have Kenny Omega defeat Zack Sabre Jr. In a pretty technical match. He wins it with the one-winged angel via pinfall. We then have Jon Moxley defeat Bandito via submission when Bandito passes out in the Bulldog choke. Bandito actually shakes Moxley's hand after the match. We then have another Death Riders representative in Pac. He faces Shota Umino. Umino is able to win via pinfall following a Northern Lights bomb. After the match, Moxley gets in the ring to stare at his former partner / student Umino, and then Hiroshi Tanahashi comes out to put the belt around Umino's waist that he was defending, the global championship from New Japan. The name escaped me there for a second. We then have Tekla. She defeats the Starlight Kid via pinfall following 2 stomps. This was the one Stardom representative that was on the show. After the match, Tekla takes off her mask, and she actually goes over to the Stardom president and smacks him in the face with it. We then have Cope and Cage defeat the Dogs when a returning Jay White comes out and distracts the Dogs, allowing Cope to hit the spear on David Finlay, and Cope and Cage retain their tag team championships. We then have our Owen Hart women's final. Mercedes Moné defeats Maya World via submission with the statement maker. Mercedes, with this win, wins her second Owen Hart Cup in a row, and it's the number 1 contender for All In, whether that's against Tekla or whether that's against somebody else that may win the title from here to there, because there is another pay-per-view between the two. So we'll see what happens there. Mercedes and Tekla could be a good match, but at the same time, it's kind of heel. So I think that would be kind of weird, but we will see where they go with that. We then get thoughts from Athena after the match. She's kind of in the crowd getting interviewed. She brags about being great, mocks Maya World for losing, who's her former student, and she kind of makes fun of her for dreaming a little too big for where she's at in her career at this point. So obviously, I think that may be the next Ring of Honor program for Athena. Maybe the person that finally beats her for the Ring of Honor women's title, but we'll see. I've said that about 5 times already. So we then go to our big 12-man tag cage match. Team Mark Briscoe of Mark Briscoe, Roderick Strong, Kyle O'Reilly, Orange Cassidy, Konosuke Takeshita, and Darby Allin defeat Team MJF, which is MJF, Andrade, Kyle Fletcher, Jake Doyle, Kazuchika Okada, and Kevin Knight when Andrade turns on the Don Callis family, takes out MJF, and then Mark Briscoe wins the match by hitting the J Driller on Jake Doyle. During the match, Leo Rush had kind of interfered and kind of creeped out MJF and some of the other Don Callis family members, and even, honestly, the face team as well. But he had emerged from like a body bag, I think, and the Don Callis family members do eventually beat him up and stuff him back in there. And then after the match, the Team Briscoe is nice enough to get Leo Rush in the bag and bring him out of the arena. They don't let him out of the bag because they're obviously afraid of his weirdness, but they do drag him to the back in the bag. So I thought that was pretty funny. Mark Briscoe then starts to yell kind of towards the camera, but the audio kind of cuts in and out a little bit, so it's hard to understand, but Excalibur eventually explains that Briscoe said that he is challenging for MJF for his world title match that he won here this week on Dynamite. So I'll talk about that a little bit later. And then we have our main event, which was the Owen Hart men's tournament, and Will Ospreay defeats Swerve Strickland via pinfall when he hits a buckshot hidden blade, a paradigm shift, a Death Rider, and the Tiger Driver 91, all in succession to really put away Swerve Strickland. And Ospreay wins the Owen Hart Cup and will have the title shot at All In. And then Ospreay and Swerve kind of have a little chat that we can't hear. It was the audio didn't really pick it up, but they talk about it. They seem to be on the a good terms or something like that. Obviously, it wasn't anything derogatory. Swerve was kind of trying to pick him up and tell him that you gave me a hell of a fight, stuff like that. But then the Death Riders come in to celebrate with Ospreay to end the show. He has the cup, and obviously he will eventually get the title shot. So it would seem to be Ospreay versus MJF, but as I said, Briscoe is going to get his shot this week on Dynamite that I'll talk about in just a little bit. And then on Dynamite, we'll see that somebody else may be coming to take on MJF as well. So, but right out of the pay-per-views, we'll go straight into Raw. We open with a Night of Champions recap because that was also Saturday of last weekend. So we had 3 pay-per-views on Sunday and 1 on Saturday. So we get the recap from Night of Champions as well. Obafemi comes out, the new King of the Ring. He appreciates the chants, and those are for a ruler, which is him. And now he deserves the reaction of a king. Lady Destiny is not done with him, and a choice has to be made. But then Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman come out to interrupt him. Lesnar actually handles his own introduction and says that while he doesn't watch the show, he knows that being King of the Ring is an accomplishment, as he did it once himself. Heyman has told Lesnar that Femi has a decision to make, and maybe Lesnar can help him with that. Lesnar understands that Femi has been calling him a coward and a bitch while he was gone. Heyman has said that Femi is a hell of a promo, and Lesnar could never quite do that, which is why he always had Heyman around. As the saying goes, though, talk shit, get hit, and then he low blows Femi and F5s him to leave him laying. And then Paul Heyman screams at Brock and says, "Now that was a great promo." The two of them go to leave, but Femi then calls Lesnar a bitch once again, and he wants to fight Lesnar at SummerSlam to settle the score. That's fine with Lesnar, but Lesnar wants it inside Hell in a Cell. So Heyman does his kind of freaked out face at first, but he realizes that Brock knows what he's doing. So pretty awesome opening segment. Obviously, we'll see that Femi has kind of given away his title shot that he won with King of the Ring. I assume he'll get it at some point, but he's just not going to have it at SummerSlam. So we'll see where that eventually goes. Heyman is in the back. He runs into Anna Pierce saying that the match was just given to him, and he says, "Imagine the t-shirt sales that you'll make from this." They have the biggest match of all time in the SummerSlam main event. Austin Theory then comes in to say that he didn't know Heyman was back, and he has a match tonight. And then Heyman just kind of snidely says, "Well, now you know," and then he walks away. So he seems to maybe be done with Austin Theory going forward. Adam Pearce then goes to talk to Obafemi, who says he can get the title shot later, but he's interested in Brock Lesnar for the time being. So Femi will not be challenging for the title at SummerSlam, which is supposed to come with winning the King of the Ring. So I assume he still retains the opportunity to get the title shot and maybe name the time and place, but he will not be getting it right now. It's probably best to do that. Obviously, the thing with Lesnar needs to be finished. It's good to do it on a big stage. Obviously, coming into the year before WrestleMania, everybody thought that this is where Brock would kind of retire. So he seemingly retired at WrestleMania, but obviously came back, and they already had the match at Clash in Italy. So they're 1-1. So we'll see after Brock if Oba wins this match, if Brock goes away for good. So we'll see what happens with that. We then have Rey Mysterio squashing young talent, much to Scott Shiflett's chagrin. He defeats Ethan Page via pinfall with a 619 and a frog splash. So old Rey still getting wins over young Ethan Page here. We then go to Judgment Day. They go to find Danhausen, search for their money, but they're in his kind of lair, and they steal something that was given to him by the New York Knicks, and we'll see what that was later. We then have Joe Hendry out for a concert. The Street Profits eventually come out to sing with him. They're very happy with their title win last week, and Montez even thanks the fans for believing in them all the way through. They also thank Seth Rollins and call last week's win a beautiful song. That's enough for Hendry to start singing about how we have new champs and how pathetic the vision happens to be. This brings out Austin Theory, who calls the Profits thieves. The rematch is set for next week, and the Profits approve, but they're not sure if Braun Breaker is going to be healthy enough to go. For right now, though, Theory wants to face Joe Hendry, and Joe Hendry seems to accept. And then we have that match. Joe Hendry defeats Austin Theory via pinfall following a side effect. Now, they called that the standing ovation, which is not what the standing ovation was before. I don't know if he changed his finisher or if they just miscalled it or not, but the side effect, which Matt Hardy used to use back in the day, was called the standing ovation here. So I don't know if that's a new thing or not, but we'll see what happens. We then go to Raquel Rodriguez. She complains to Adam Pearce and gets a match with Maxine tonight. Liv and Roxanne come in with Liv going on about her problems, and Raquel saying she has Liv's back, and Perez, though she tried to talk a few times, couldn't get a word in edgewise in this whole segment. So we then have the Queen of the Ring, Io Sky, come out. She is grateful to be back here with her crown. Io Sky celebrates her win, but Liv Morgan eventually comes out. Liv is tired of hearing from Io and promises to win at SummerSlam, where she will remain the greatest women's world champion of all time with all the L's. Until then, though, Io Sky is in trouble because here is the rest of the Judgment Day ladies. Io actually is able to clear them out pretty quick. An Oblivion attempt is countered, and Sky grabs a German suplex from it. A big kick to the head looks to set up over the moonsault, but Raquel then gets back in and puts Io in this tree of woe, and then the team works her over and focuses on her knee. And Liv grabs the half crab until agents and referees come out to kind of break it up. So they're trying to make Liv like a submission specialist lately. The half crab seems to be something she's kind of honed in on. So we'll see if that continues to be part of her arsenal or what going forward. We then recap LA Knight turning down Solo Sikoa's offer to team up from SmackDown. We then have a rematch from last week. Jimmy Uso is able to defeat LA Knight this time when Jay provides a distraction, allowing Jimmy to get a surprise roll-up for the win. After the match, they continue to beat him down, but Solo runs in for the save. That's enough for LA Knight to come back up with a BFT. We then look back at Gunther and Nick Aldis getting into a shoving match after the Night of Champions main event. Aldis and Gunther have been sent home, and Aldis is on administrative leave for now. And then Adam Pearce has kind of been named the general manager of both shows going forward until Aldis comes back. We then have Jey Uso. He wants to face Sami Zayn for the title at SummerSlam. Jacob Fatu is off to do something about it, and Jimmy Uso says for him to send it to the group text, whatever he figures out or finds out. Lyra Valkyria isn't sure why people are getting on to her for turning on Bayley. The anger got the better of her one time, but she isn't letting it get her down. She wanted to bring Bayley up with her and never hurt her, but last week felt so good, though, just because she got to close the gap. We then have Maxine. She passes Chad Gable without saying anything, but stops and says that she's sorry for last week, which Gable says isn't necessary. He totally understood why she felt the way that she did, and he wishes her good luck in her match, which is next. Raquel Rodriguez then defeats Maxine Dupree via pinfall following the Tejana Bomb. So this was kind of a quasi number one contendership for the Women's Intercontinental Championship, so we'll see if Raquel gets a shot at Seoul sometime soon. We then have Danhausen. He finds his lab has been ruined, and his gift from the Knicks has gone missing. Liv Morgan then comes in, and Danhausen accuses her of doing this, with Liv saying it was all of the Judgment Day that did it. She wants their money back and her curse lifted, and then she flips her hair in his face as she leaves. So we'll see if they get their way or if more trouble is headed towards the Judgment Day. We then have Chad Gable defeat JD McDonough via submission with an ankle lock. After the match, the Judgment Day, there was a briefcase that was a kind of ringside that seemed to have been planted by Danhausen. They go to get the briefcase because it seemingly has the money that they're owed in it, but smoke kind of sprays out of it into their face. Danhausen then pops up to steal the jersey that they had taken from him earlier. Danhausen declares that he won, but Raquel Rodriguez jumps him from behind and steals the jersey once again. So it's kind of just a New York Knicks jersey with Danhausen's name on it, but it was in like a frame and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see where this kind of heads going forward. as we move on throughout the weeks, obviously. Austin Theory then comes up to Maxine Dupree and doesn't like what she said to Chad Gable earlier. Dupree wants to go back down that road. Then maybe this isn't working out between the two of them. Theory then leaves, and the Alpha Academy comes in to ask if she's okay, and Dupree says she doesn't know, and then leaves alone. And then we get our main event segment where Roman Reigns comes out to cut a promo. He hits the "Acknowledge Me" catchphrase, and then immediately is interrupted by Seth Rollins. They stare at each other for a while until Rollins says, "Hello, my brother." They have been tied together for 14 years, and Reigns is in possession of something that belongs to Seth Rollins. Yes, and he says, "Yes, his brother, it is time to collect." Reigns says that Rollins is the back of the line, but Rollins says he owns Reigns no matter what. He lists off some of the times that he has been one step ahead of Reigns over the years, going all the way back to the chair shot that ended the Shield. He pinned Reigns at WrestleMania in the Triple Threat last year. He mentions a couple of other times. But Reigns may be as great as the people think he is, but he has never beaten Seth Rollins. This may be Reigns' last chance to do this because they came through the crowd together and made this place their own together. Now there is a new generation ready to come in and take over, so this may be their last chance to do this together on a big stage. Reigns is one of the best to ever do it, but if he does not accept this challenge, he may never escape Rollins' shadow. Reigns says that's the first truth he's ever heard from Seth Rollins, or especially in a long time, and he needs to beat him, and the match is set for SummerSlam. So Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns will happen at SummerSlam for the World Heavyweight Championship. So really awesome segment. One of Seth's better promos. Not that he's ever been a bad promo, but this one had a lot of intensity and a lot of truth to it. They've obviously been kind of rivals ever since the Shield breakup. So, and then, they've been two of the top dogs ever since. So, but yeah, big match for a show that I think a lot of people are genuinely excited about. Mania wasn't everything that everybody wanted it to be, but it definitely ended on a better note than it started. So it's easy to be excited about SummerSlam, especially you have Femi and Lesnar in the Hell in a Cell, and then obviously Rollins and Reigns is a pretty big match as well. So, but as far as best match, I would go with Chad Gable and JD McDonough. I thought they were given a lot of time, and they used it very well to their advantage. So definitely check that one out if you haven't already. We'll then go to NXT. We open with a long Great American Bash recap. Kendall Gray then comes out to open the show in the arena. She's more nervous to be out here now than she was in the main event on Sunday. Ever since John Cena picked her to be in the Women's Iron Survivor, her life has been crazy. No one puts pressure on her like she does herself, and she kept dropping the ball, it seemed. But this past Sunday, she proved that she belonged here, even though she doesn't look like your normal champion. No, she isn't going to dress like a Barbie, but when the bell rings, she'll be wrestling like a champion. Sooner or later, everyone is going to find out that they can't keep up with Kendall. Rin Sinclair then comes out with the cake to celebrate, but before they can get too far, Kalani Jordan comes out and says she wants a title shot that she has earned over the past few weeks. Tatum Paxley, who obviously got in, or who Kalani got in her face on Sunday, pops up in the crowd and dives out onto Kalani, and Rin Sinclair and Kendall have some cake to enjoy watching them kind of bicker at each other. We then have Keanu Carver. He has attacked El Hijo del Vikingo, so the title match for the Latin American Championship is now off. We then have Izzy Dame complaining about how she doesn't have a title, and she easily could if not for Sean Spears. Zarya is the one that kind of is listening to her, and Zarya doesn't seem to really give a shit about her issues. But they kind of get interrupted by some loud music getting played in the background, and it's Lizzie Rain rocking out to some rock music in the locker room, and they kind of, just bitch at her for a little bit. We then have Kalani Jordan. She complains to Robert Stone, who has no time for this. Stone gives Tatum Paxley in tonight's main event before going to deal with Keanu Carver. Thankfully, Carver is a few feet away and says that he doesn't like being overlooked. His reward is another match with EK Prosper later on tonight. So they obviously faced each other last week, and they'll have a rematch here tonight. We then had the Vanity Project. They retained the tag team titles, defeating El Hijo del Dr. Wagner Jr. and Galeno when they hit the double stomp reverse DDT combo on Wagner. We then have Dark State, OTM, Birthright, and then the team of Sean Legacy and Dorian Van Dukes. Though Dorian Van Dukes doesn't show up, they all want a title shot, so Robert Stone makes a four-way number one contenders match for next week. Romeo Moreno and Noam Dar were also in the room, but they are left out as Stone says they need to build up their resume and prove themselves a little further before they think about getting title shots. We then have Jackson Drake. He defeats Mason Rook via pinfall following when he hits a backstabber. He kind of makes the pinfall, and then Micah, who was ringside, kind of holds Rook's feet down so he isn't able to kick out of the backstabber attempt. After the match, Rook absolutely destroys the rest of the Vanity Project, though it leaves them laying. So Mason may have taken a loss, but he ends up on top. We then have Tate Wilder giving EK Prosper a pep talk, just kind of hyping him up for his match against Keanu Carver. Callie Armstrong then comes into Robert Stone's office and wants a chance to be at the top of the card, battling for championships. He says he appreciates her coming in, but he tells her that actions often speak louder than words. So take that for what it's worth. We then have EK Prosper once again defeat Keanu Carver via pinfall when he's able to get an assist from Hank and Tank, who obviously Keanu had attacked this previous weekend. They distracted Keanu long enough, took him out, and then EK hit his top rope moonsault and won the match. We then have Kendall Gray. She goes to Robert Stone's office as well, where he announces a four-way women's number one contender match next week. Natty and then her new group of cronies come in, with Natty praising all of them and then asking for a title shot for herself. Robert Stone and Kendall both seem kind of into the idea of the match, so Natty will face Kendall next week for the NXT Championship. We then have Jada Parker taking on Carmen Petrovich, and she defeats her via pinfall when she hits the Hypnotic and then the Deja Vu to get the win. We then have Shiloh Hill and Tatum Paxley. They talk in the back about enjoying having fun with each other and knowing that they have a dark side that they can turn to in their match, that they can unleash when they really need it. So Paxley leaves, and Nico Vance comes in to say that they got rid of the weak stars one by one in the culling, and now they're stronger than ever. Shiloh doesn't like what he's saying about Tatum, and then Vance tells Shiloh that the toothless look makes for a nice smile and kind of, walks away, and it was just weird. We then go to Sean Legacy. He comes up to Dorian Van Dukes, kind of is mad at him for not being there earlier when he went to Stone, and says they need to be on the same page going forward, and Dukes says they will be, and not worry. We then have Miles Bourne and Ren Sinclair. They're happy with their wins on Sunday, but Tavion Heights comes in. It's obviously a little down. Tavion says that no matter what, friends stay together, and in an effort to erase kind of what he has said about Miles over the last few weeks. Miles seems to still want to be friends with him, and it says it doesn't quite work like that, as Miles has been trying to tell Tavion that the whole time before walking away. So Tavion's obviously, Miles has been trying to say that they can be friends and opponents at the same time, and Tavion's been trying to not really act that way lately. But now that he's lost, he kind of says that that's the way that it can kind of be. But we'll see where their relationship goes going forward. We then have Tony D'Angelo come out. He only has the eye patch on tonight over his eye. He says, when you do things every day, you start taking them for granted. Last week, he got his eye burned and had to sign a document before he could even fight at Great American Bash. He had to sign a waiver, obviously, saying that nobody's responsible for him taking this risk of having this match. He says that made him stop for a second, and he wasn't sure he was going to risk his health to defend the NXT title. But he said, of course, but eventually got in his mind that of course he was, and that's why he gave it his all against Naraku and came out as champion. There's no one in that locker room willing to swim deep enough to take the title from him. And that's kind of the end of his promo. He starts to walk away. Kendall Gray comes out as he's walking out, and they kind of dap up. And then as Kendall's kind of walking towards the ring, we see Tony D kind of knocked down. Naraku has a chair, comes and attacks Tony D'Angelo with it. He eventually does an STO on the chair and then leaves leaves D'Angelo laying before we get to our main event. We come back from commercial and we see that Naraku had started the attack by misting Tony D'Angelo, leaving him blinded, and he obviously laid him out and left him laying to end the segment. And then we go to our main event where Kalani Jordan defeats Tatum Paxley via pinfall, following a one-of-a-kind moonsault. During the match, Kendall Gray was on commentary and got attacked by Callie Armstrong, obviously taking the actions louder than words kind of thing to mean that she should attack the champ. After the match, Kalani Jordan leaves, but a random woman comes in to jump Tatum Paxley and lay her out to end the show. We learn later on Twitter, I believe, because they do that thing on TV where they're like, Booker, we know who this is, and then they never say what her name is. But they announced it on Twitter after the show was over that this new lady that's going to be in NXT is going to be named Nikki Blackheart. So we'll see what she does going forward. She does a torture rack at one point and like almost completely collapses and like destroys her knee, which would have been pretty brutal to kind of start out your career like that. But she does recover, kind of torture racks Tatum and kind of throws her down. So we'll see what she can do going forward. There were quite a few matches on this show that I thought were pretty strong, but Jackson Drake and Mason Rook would get my nod for match of the night tonight. But the women's match was obviously strong to end the show as well. We then go to Dynamite from there. We get a clip from Forbidden Door with Will Ospreay being very happy with his win. He's walking around with his wife, Alex Windsor. Ospreay then runs into Moxley and asks if him and Mox can talk for a bit. He asks what Mox meant about seeing something in him, and if Moxley can explain it in words. Moxley says if he could explain it in words, he would explain it to someone, but he can't quite put it in words. This place could be something special, but if Ospreay wants the Death Riders patch, he has to ride with them, and he can't, flip flop or anything like that. Ospreay then went on to see Kenny Omega. So Moxley handed Ospreay like a patch that has like a little Death Rider symbol on it. So he's kind of giving him to contemplate whether he wants to join them full time or not. Then he runs into Kenny Omega. He praised him for winning, but is not wild on seeing him being in the Death Riders. MJF then comes in to mock both of them, with Omega threatening to come after the title, and MJF not really giving a shit, and just saying he's going to see Ospreay in Wembley, bruv. MJF then leaves, and Omega seems to suggest that everything was fine with Ospreay and there's no ill will, but he obviously just doesn't agree with the joining of the Death Riders. So, and then we open Dynamite in the arena with MJF defeating Mark Briscoe via pinfall following a heat seeker. After the match, MJF loads up the diamond ring and knocks Briscoe out. He loads up another shot, but Kenny Omega runs in for the save. Omega wants a title shot tonight, but MJF shoots that down, saying he's beaten Omega twice before. MJF says he will face Omega next week, but if MJF wins, Omega can never challenge for the world title ever again. He then tells Omega he has until the end of the night to decide whether that's something he wants to sacrifice. So obviously Mark Briscoe gets his big title shot here. He isn't successful. He is dealing with some injuries, some pretty intense injuries, I think, at this point. So this was kind of a way to write him off. He gets his big opportunity, but he obviously gets taken out kind of after the match. So we'll probably not see Mark Briscoe for quite a bit. So we then come back from commercial. MJF promises that payback is coming for Andrade El Idolo, who obviously kind of fucked with him at the cage match. With that out of the way, though, he lists off the names that he has beaten. He includes Cody Rhodes in that list. And he even mentions that Kenny, like I said, is 0-2 against him. He knows Omega won't agree because he is literally gutless. Obviously, a play on his diverticulitis situation. Will Ospreay then comes in to ask why the stipulation, with MJF saying it's because he's a champion and he could do shit like that if he wants to. And then he once again says he will see Ospreay in Wembley, bruv. We then have Andrade come out for a promo. He says he is done with the Don Callis family and wants the world title. And then his new catchphrase is "How you know." So he says that, and then the Don Callis family comes to jump him from behind and beat him down pretty good. Don Callis wants Andrade out of here because Kevin Knight has a match next. We then have Mercedes Moné. She brags about winning the Owen Hart Cup once again because she is in the conversation no matter where she was going. So she's always going to be part of the conversation no matter what anybody else tries to prevent her from being, whatever. She's the conversation no matter who gets in her way. We then have Kevin Knight. He defeats Leo Rush via pinfall following a crash landing. After the match, Darby Allin comes in to say he wants a TNT title shot, or the same things are going to keep happening to Kevin Knight. Darby had set off an explosion in the cage match that kind of blew up in Kevin Knight's face. Kevin Knight, so that's what he's kind of referencing. Kevin Knight was ready to accept the challenge, but Don Callis cuts him off and says that Darby Allin is a criminal and should have been charged for it at Forbidden Door. And that Darby Allin says that Knight is digging his own grave by listening to Don Callis here and not accepting his challenge. We then look at Chris Jericho beating up JD Drake and mocking Tommaso Ciampa. Ciampa calls Jericho a bully, but Jericho jumps him from behind. They go outside where Ciampa rolls a shopping cart at him and then tries to stab him in the head with a drill. Security tries to break it up, but Jericho dives out of a truck to take out both Ciampa and the guards. So that's where the brawl kind of ends. We then have Kenny Omega. He talks to the Young Bucks about the stipulation, but Omega hasn't made a decision just yet. He didn't like what he had to do to win the title in the first place and wants to do it on his own this time. The Bucks say they have his back no matter what, but Omega still doesn't seem so sure about what he's going to do. We then have Jon Moxley and Will Ospreay. They defeat the Swirl of Lee Johnson and Blake Christian when Mox hits the paradigm shift on Lee Johnson. When they go to after retaining their tag team titles at Forbidden Door, Christian Cage and Adam Copeland weren't sure about what Jay White's intentions were. Cage still doesn't like him from previous dealings with him, and Cope obviously hasn't had that kind of situation with Jay White, so he doesn't seem to care that Jay White helped them, but Christian doesn't seem to want to have anything to do with him. This leads us to a Bang Bang Gang segment where they cut a promo. Jay White says that they have been waiting for well over a year to do this. And he's glad that he gets to say the guns up catchphrase once again. He remembered people not liking the Death Riders, but now they're hanging with the biggest fraud in wrestling. That aside, he wants to talk about the dogs who he doesn't like because of things that happened in New Japan over the years. Jay White remembers joining the New Japan dojo with David Finlay, who is a fourth-generation wrestler, and raising a fifth-generation star. Finlay has wrestling in his blood, but he's still a whining little boy. Jay White is still the catalyst of wrestling, and this is still his era. If the dogs or anyone has a problem with that, guns up. So, pretty good promo there by Jay White. We then have Shane Taylor in the back and his group of Shane Taylor Promotions. They want the Bang Bang Gang in a tag team match at Collision. So we'll see if that ends up happening. We then have the Survival of the Fittest for the TBS Championship. Hikaru Shida wins and it becomes the new TBS champion. She last eliminates Chris Statlander when she's able to choke her out. The other participants in the match were Harley Cameron, Micah, Queen Amanada, and Persephone. They were eliminated in that order as well throughout the match. So I did make that distinction when I listed the other participants. We then have Will Ospreay tries to talk to Kenny Omega, tried to talk him out of making a bad decision, but Omega says if he's going out, his guns are blazing. Omega then comes out to cut a promo in the crowd or in the ring. He talks about how he has been doing this for over half of his life, and he always gives this everything that he has. He has a career that he could hang his hat on and be proud about. But there is a part of him that believes that he still has it and can be a world champion. If the elite can believe and the people can believe, then he knows he can be champion in AEW and one that they could be proud of one more time at Wembley against, and he can face Will Ospreay in Wembley. All he has to do is put everything on the line against MJF, but Cody Rhodes and Hangman Page have done the same thing. He is still the best bout machine, and yes, the match is on, and he'll be ready for whatever MJF has for him. MJF runs in for a brawl. Omega fights back with the security, eventually breaking it up to end the show. So, pretty intense finish there for Dynamite, but MJF and Mark Briscoe from earlier in the show was definitely the best match for me. Got a ton of time. Obviously, MJF's one of those, if he wrestles, he's usually going to have a pretty intense back and forth with whoever he faces. So he's one of those. He's just one of those guys that he doesn't wrestle all that often on TV, but when he does, something you probably need to check out. So, but we'll go from there to Impact. We open with Ryan Nemeth. He introduces the best wrestler of the last 35,000 years, his big brother, Nick Nemeth. Nick comes out rather pleased about how Slammiversary went, and Ryan then pulls out a scroll listing various members of the wrestling community that Nick has beaten throughout the years. The list includes Randy Orton, Ultimo Dragon, Kane, Rey Mysterio, Cody Rhodes, Johnny Nitro, Johnny TV, John Morrison, Johnny Mundo, and even John Cena, among others. This brings out Casey Navarro, who's had some problems with the Nemeths over the last few weeks, even kind of been buddies with them a little bit over the last month or so. He wants to talk to Nick, but Ryan says not so fast. Nick cuts that off and offers to let Navarro face Ryan later tonight. Other than that, though, anyone who can come at him, anyone can come at him, but they will be put down, just like Santana was this past weekend. So this is what I was kind of talking about earlier. Navarro seems to have some problems with the Nemeths. He more has an issue with, I would say, Ryan at this point, but obviously we'll talk about the match that happens later. We'll see what happens there, but Casey Navarro could be a good little series that he could have with Nick over the next month or so. Maybe being one of their minor shows that's not it's a special show, obviously, but it's not one of the main pay-per-views. He could be an opponent for Nick, but we'll see what happens with that going forward. Leon Slater then says that Cedric Alexander stole the X Division title at Slammiversary, and Slater is still coming for it. As for tonight, though, he's going to teach Eddie Edwards a lesson in the main event as a part of his path to becoming the biggest star in TNA. We then look at the announcements, with the announcement of the Knockouts TV title and the tournament to crown the first champion. So that'll be happening over the next few weeks, obviously. But another title for a division that isn't all that stacked, so I'm not real sure what the thought process is here. They have been much more stacked in previous years, and I think it probably could have been beneficial to the roster at certain other points. But they're pretty thin. As far as talent, I would say that's worth seeing on TV every week. So seems like having a title to just have another title. So, but we'll see where the tournament kind of goes. We open the tournament with Mara Sade defeating Tasha Steelz when she hits a top rope moonsault. Sade obviously advances to the next round. After the match, Order 4 comes out and doesn't seem all that pleased that Tasha Steelz took the L here. We'll get more from that later. Rich Swann then gives BDE a pep talk, even though they're both competing against each other in a 6-way scramble for an X Division title shot next. Fabian Eichner wins that 6-way scramble, defeating BDE, Rich Swann, Mr. Elegance, Jason Hotch, and the Hometown Man when Eichner hits a sit-out powerbomb on BDE. Eichner then becomes the number 1 contender for the X Division title with this victory. We then have Ricky Sosa. He meets first class in the back, but doesn't seem impressed. So Ricky Sosa's recently kind of come back. He had the match with Eric Young, and he's obviously kind of getting reacquainted with the backstage politics of everything. We then have Mustafa Ali. He doesn't want to hear or afford excuses. He yells at the Great Hands for not winning the tag titles, and obviously is angry with Tasha not advancing in the TV title tournament. So he just kind of yells at them for a little bit, and obviously he just doesn't want the excuses going forward. We then have Ricky Sosa come out to the ring. He says he's new around here, and the win on Sunday is just the beginning. This brings out the Righteous, who see the potential and offer him a spot in their crew. The System to come out, who make an offer of their own, citing the team's recent successes. Eddie Edwards sums it up by asking if Sosa wants to be a champion or join a cult. Sosa turns both of them down, and the brawl is on, with Leon Slater running in, but failing to make the save as the bad guys kind of overwhelm them. We then have Heather by Elegance defeat Allie via pinfall, following a top rope double foot stomp. This advances Heather by Elegance in the TV title tournament. So kind of a shocking win, but she kind of gets one back after the Elegance brand lost the tag titles to Allie and Rosemary on the weekend. So Heather by Elegance will be in the next round. We then have new Knockouts champion Zaya Brookside come out to cut a promo. She gets right to the point with the "I told you so" as Lei Ying Lee was jealous and holding her back. Now we'll get to see how good Brookside is, and she is here as the new Knockouts champion. The title doesn't belong to the people because it belongs to her. This brings out Lei Ying Lee, who doesn't see a champion but a fake bitch, and the rematch is set for next week. And Lee wants it to be no disqualification. And then she comes in to try to attack Zaya, but Zaya is able to escape and run away. We then have Mustafa Ali. He begs Daria Ray for a tag team title shot for the Great Hands, this time one-on-one. She says sure, and she makes it for next week. So Daria doesn't seem too impressed by the thought of the idea of this, but she kind of says whatever, go away, and all that kind of stuff. So we then have Casey Navarro defeat Ryan Nemeth via pinfall following a running neckbreaker. And after the match, Nick Nemeth seems to try to get them on the same page because he kind of wants Casey on their side, but then he attacks him and hits the danger zone and lays Casey out. So it's going to be the Nemeth brothers, raining terror down on the rest of the roster. So we'll see where that kind of goes from here. And then we go to the Hardys. They are ready for the Great Hands. The Great Hands are going to be somebody that they take on for the tag team titles. Obviously, we heard that announced earlier, and we'll see how that goes for them. We then have Eddie Edwards win the main event. He defeats Leon Slater via pinfall when Cedric Alexander provides a distraction, and Edwards rolls Slater up and grabs the tights while it's going on. So we then have a beatdown after the match, but Ricky Sosa comes in and he's able to make the save this time, and Slater appreciates him, and they kind of celebrate to end the show. So, but the best match for me on Impact was the X Division 6-way. I just, it's a match of chaos, and I'm a big fan of chaos. So I thought it was a good match holistically, and I thought Eichner winning was pretty strong. So, but we will go from there to Collision. Like I said, Collision was on Thursday this week to kind of not have to compete with the July the 4th holiday. So I don't blame them this time. But we opened that with the Death Riders of Pac and Claudio defeating Shingo Takagi and Drillo Maloney, members of Unbound Company from NJPW. Claudio rolls up Takagi after a distraction from Daniel Garcia on the outside for the win. The conglomeration then talks about being upset that Ishii and Mark Briscoe are both out and injured. They're still somewhat scared of Leo Rush, but Konosuke Takeshita comes in and says he has their back. He wants to face El Phantasmo. He hates Okada, and he does want to face Kyle Fletcher going forward in the future. We then have Andrade El Idolo. He defeats Don Callis family member Brian Cage via pinfall following the DM. After the match, Andrade asked the fans how you know. So we'll see how annoyed I get by that going forward, but we'll see. It seems to be over with the crowd, so I don't quite get it, but we'll see about that going forward. But Gabe Kidd then pops up and says he's ready to come back and hurt people, kind of the same thing he said previously. We then have Thunder Rosa and Mina Shirakawa defeat Becca and Zara Zacher when Rosa hits the Tijuana bomb on Becca for the win. Teclina comes out to brag about beating the Starlight Kid and stealing her mask. She's even wearing it. After the show, she made Kid go to the strip club and dance for her. Stardom is dead, so long live the Toxic Spider, and she is ready for anyone who shoots at her at All In, and she'll catch the bullet with her teeth. So Tekla just absolutely insane as always, but an awesome promo nonetheless. We then have Skyflight officially offer Matt Sydal a spot on the team. It seems like he accepts, but he doesn't really straight up say it. But either way, he says he has their back going forward. We then have Adam Copeland and the Bang Bang Gang, represented by the Guns and Jay White. They defeat Shane Taylor Promotions of Shane Taylor, Lee Moriarty, Carly Bravo, and Sean Dean when White hits the Blade Runner on Bravo. After the match, the Dogs come out for a stare down, but the Death Riders run in and beat down the Bang Bang Gang. The Dogs then join in with David Finlay eventually hitting Jay White with a shillelagh. We then continue to see Willow Nightingale's kind of training to return and her coming back into form and stuff like that. We then have the Demand squash a couple of jobbers, Saniko, Chris Nasty, and Jordan Oasis when Ricochet hits a springboard Doomsday device for the win. I believe he hit it on Oasis for the win. After the match, though, Ricochet says he doesn't like that Matt Sydal is back and says that the three of them have been in demand for over a year. And then they say that they get to make the decisions around here. So Ricochet wants to face Matt Sydal sometime in the near future. We then have Athena defeat Rena via pinfall following the O-Face. This match was for the number one spot in an upcoming women's casino gauntlet for a title shot in the future. We then have Mystico, Bandito, and Mike Bailey defeat the Rascals when Bandito hits the 21-plex on Desmond Xavier. Megan Bain and Lena Cross think they are too dominant for any team and says address them from your knees because that way it will be easier to bow down to them. We then have Roosh squash Jordan Cruz via pinfall following the Horns. We then have the Ops. They say they want the ROH World title and they want Katsuyori Shibata to get the next shot against Bandito. Then they say the match will be on Collision instead of Ring of Honor, obviously, because why would a Ring of Honor World title match be on Ring of Honor? Bowens then tries to get some enthusiasm going, but gets shot down by Hook because Hook kind of just doesn't want to hear it from him. We then have Maya World defeat Julia Hart via pinfall following a Shining Wizard. This will make World the number 2 entrant in the Casino Gauntlet. We then have video of the Tommaso Ciampa versus Chris Jericho rivalry thus far. And then we get kind of a video on the hype for MJF versus Kenny Omega, obviously the making of the match and obviously hyping up the fact that it will happen on Dynamite next week. And then we have Kyle Fletcher defeat El Phantasmo via pinfall following a brainbuster. After the match, Don Callis gets in the ring and talks about the disloyalty of Konosuke Takeshita. Starting on Dynamite, the family is taking everything from him, including the international title. Takeshita comes out to chase Callis off to end the show. The main event was the best match for me. Fletcher's one of my favorites, so obviously I haven't been shy about saying that in the past. So usually if he wrestles, I'm probably going to pick his match as my favorite. And Phantasmo is kind of he's somebody I've enjoyed in the past. I think he's, probably a little underappreciated in the grand scheme of things, but he's not the biggest guy. So he's probably always going to be a junior heavyweight type guy. So But I definitely enjoyed their match there to end Collision for sure. And then we'll go to SmackDown. We open the show with Sami Zayn. Gets a pretty big reaction. Talks about how a lot of people are here are ride or die for him, and he is the last real good guy. He appreciates the reactions he has gotten and gives the fans a genuine thank you. It's funny though because a lot of the people booed him and jumped on and off of the bandwagon for him over the last few months. He won't say he told you so though because he's a good guy who won the title the right way. We're here to celebrate him, and he will forever be known as a WrestleMania main eventer and a Grand Slam champion, but also a WWE champion. Nothing can ever take that away from him. And then here comes Cody Rhodes to interrupt. Zayn asks what he wants to talk about, but Rhodes wants to just congratulate him. He holds out his hand, and they shake hands. Rhodes goes to leave because that's really all he came to accomplish. But Sami Zayn tells him to. He wants him to. He kind of wants to hear what he has to say. He knows he didn't just come out here for that. And this brings out Jey Uso, who gives Sami a big hug and says that he deserves it. As much as he respects Sami, though, he has to do business and bring the title back to the family. Cody then asks, "What year is it?" And bringing it back to the family sounds ridiculous. Uso is already a former world champion, but we're here talking about a Cody Rhodes rematch. Sami Zayn isn't happy with Rhodes saying that Zayn would never take the title from him. As far as Uso is concerned, though, the title is still in the family. They can both stay away. From him. But here's Adam Pearce coming out to interrupt, obviously acting as GM while Nick Aldis is out. Pearce says it's his job to find Zayn a challenger, but Zayn says that he should have some say in who he faces at SummerSlam. Pearce says no one is talking about SummerSlam because Sami Zayn will be defending it this Monday on Raw. And tonight, Cody Rhodes versus Jey Uso will determine who will be in that match. So we shall see what happens in the main event. We then have Charlotte. She says she cost Jade Cargill at Night of Champions because Cargill cost her in the Queen of the Ring. Alexa Bliss pops up to say that it would have been nice to have been told that Charlotte would be there, but Charlotte says Bliss didn't tell her that she would be teaming with Tiffany Stratton either. Tiffany Stratton then comes in, who says that she didn't need Charlotte, but Chelsea Green comes in to say that she has Tiffany's back, and awkwardly says she'll see Charlotte out there. So we then have Jade Cargill, Michin, and BFAB defeat Charlotte, Chelsea Green, and Tiffany Stratton when Jade hits Jaded on Chelsea. And that kind of ends that match. We then look back at Gunther and Nick Aldis getting into it, leading to both of them getting sent home. And again, Adam Pearce being put in charge of SmackDown for the time being. Pearce is then on the phone with Nick Aldis, who we can't hear what Nick is saying, but Pearce seems like he doesn't want him to be involved since he's not supposed to obviously be involved anyways. So he kind of is calling him to bitch and complain and stuff like that. But he should be there, but he's not because he got too physical with a superstar. He then runs into Sami Zayn, who isn't happy about what happened earlier. Pearce suggests that he'll bring some SmackDown stars to Raw for a super show, and Zayn will have an opportunity to defend his title on a big stage. Zayn is annoyed. Then he sees Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae, saying he might not have won without Johnny Gargano being there for him and being a constant ear to listen to his what he's had to say over the last few months. Zayn even asks if Candice will take a picture of him and Johnny together, and they take a picture with him holding the championship, obviously. We then have Rey Fenix defeat Vikingo via pinfall, following a Mexican muscle buster to retain his Cruiserweight championship. We then look back at Blake Monroe attacking Julia last week. Julia is happy to put Kiana James behind her and would love to fight Blake face-to-face anytime. Kiana James then comes in to say that it would be like Julia to bite the hand that feeds her. But then Blake Monroe comes in and jumps Julia from behind, and Kiana starts talking shit to Julia, and then Blake actually comes back and takes out Kiana James as well. So she was not trying to be unfair by just attacking Julia. She attacked Kiana as well. We look back at the Seth Rollins Roman Reigns showdown from Raw, setting up their SummerSlam match. We then go to Jimmy Uso talking to Jacob Fatu when Royce Keys comes in to say Fatu has been ignoring him, that Roman Reigns not give him permission to talk to Keys. Uso says they're here to find Solo and ask if Keys can help them or not. Keys says that blood doesn't make you family. He's been there for Fatu for 14 years, and that makes them family. Jimmy seems to disagree, and him and Fatu walk away. So it's obviously Keys that's going to help them in their search for Solo. We then have Trick and Little Yachty come out. Before they can say too much, Carmelo Hayes comes out. Hayes says he deserves another title shot and accuses Trick of turning that title, a title that Hayes helped make, into an accessory. He can get Trick a discount code on WWE Shop if Trick just wants something to hold to put the title on the line. Yachty isn't impressed and asks if we should give this young small man a match. The match is on for next week, but it's not for the title. That has to be earned, and Trick knocks him down. Yachty and Trick then go to leave, but Hayes takes them out with a big kind of flip dive to the outside. We then have Danhausen. He is on the phone. It's a really old-timey phone for some reason. But Miz and Kit Wilson are there in the background with their like little helmets on attached to Danhausen's like little machine that he's got going. Matt Cardona comes in to say hello, but Danhausen says talks about having a match with JD McDonough at Saturday Night's Main Event, and he has some help coming for him in New York as that show is in Madison Square Garden. He was just on the phone with the person that's coming to help him, but Cardona points out that the phone isn't plugged in. Danhausen says, "Don't worry about it," and has Cardona twist a knob. It seems to fry Kit and Miz a little bit more, with Danhausen blaming the Judgment Day and telling Cardona that he is in charge of the two of them while he goes away for a minute. Cardona mentions spiking your hair, and Wilson just randomly yells "awesome" out of nowhere. So I don't know if they're like switching minds or bodies or whatever, but a lot of craziness going on with Danhausen, obviously. We then have Lainey Reed defeat Brie Bella via pinfall when she hits a running knee on Brie to kind of knock her out. And there had been a little help from the outside from the rest of Fatal Influence to kind of set that up. We then have R-Truth beat Nathan Frazier in a hot dog eating contest. Damian Priest wants ketchup, but the War Raiders come in to say Priest and Truth should be focused on their challenge. R-Truth gets annoyed at Ivar eating Priest's wiener, but the match is set for some time in the future. It is going to take place on SmackDown, with R-Truth promising to take the mask too. Obviously, they're the AAA champions, so he thinks they're luchadors. We then look at the Obafemi Brock Lesnar segment from Raw, which obviously resulted in the Hell in the Cell being named as the match. We then have Cody Rhodes coming towards the ring, but he runs into Finn Balor. Cody apologizes for not saying it yet, but welcome to SmackDown. Balor says one of the reasons he came here was to face Cody Rhodes for the WWE Championship. So he says go start on getting it back. Cody walks away, and then Tama Tonga comes in to say he went to the family elders for guidance, and then they attack Finn with Tama saying he's closing the books on his past, with Balor being the next page that he is going to the next chapter he's going to close. And then we go to our main event where Cody Rhodes defeats Jey Uso via pinfall with the Crossroads, and this means that Cody Rhodes will face Sami Zayn for the WWE Championship on Raw Monday. So we'll see if Cody just gets the championship back and we end up doing the match that's been kind of teased out there, or if Sami retains, or if it's kind of a crazy finish or something like that, and Cody and the returning guy that they may throw in there gets put into like a triple threat or something like that. So like I said, I mean, I've kind of said it in the past, CM Punk's kind of the teased opponent for Cody at SummerSlam. So whether it will be for the title, whether it'll be a triple threat, whether it'll be one-on-one, we'll see. But I have a feeling I have a feeling Cody's going to be involved in the WWE Championship match either way. It's just a matter of whether it's one-on-one with Punk or triple threat with Sammy and Punk. So we'll see. I would probably go triple threat just to give Sammy a little bit of a run. Obviously, I don't think he'll win that match at SummerSlam, but we'll see if they just go straight back to Cody, just to have gotten, given Sammy the accomplishment and then immediately taking it away. But anything can happen. Maybe Sammy will have a long run, and I could be completely wrong in all facets, but I could definitely see them taking it right back off of him on Raw. So we'll be back next week to see what happens there. But thank you for joining me as always. I know it was a mega show. I know it was long. But a lot happened this past weekend, and a lot happened throughout this past week. So thank you as always again. We'll see you next week.